Today in Higher Learning, a surprising series of reports from the Federal Reserve Bank came out last week. Now, these reports suggest that for the first time, student loan debt in the United States, get this, is actually greater than credit card debt. That is mind-blowing. Here to talk about it is Peter Kerwin from the Rhode Island Higher Education Assistance Authority. Thanks so much for being here, Peter.
Yeah, no problem, Ben.
Now, we've heard a lot about the staggering levels of credit card debt in this country, but now, student loan debt is more than that. Explain this to us.
Yeah, this came as a real shock, and it's really a wake-up call for a lot of federal policymakers and for higher education officials as well to start looking at this problem of student debt. What basically happened is the Federal Reserve puts out a G19 report, they call it. It basically looks at revolving debt across the country. And the biggest form of revolving debt is credit card debt. And it showed that there's $825 billion worth of credit card debt held by Americans. There's a fellow named Mark Kantrowitz who tracks student loan information. His survey put out the number of $830 billion for student loan debt. So what we see now is that student loan debt number finally...
Mind-blowing numbers when you think about it.
Yeah, and it wasn't supposed to happen for 2 or 3 years. Most of the people who track this figured, it's bad, but it's not going to get this bad for a while. What happened here is that I think you've got, obviously, the continuing high levels of college costs going up and up and up.
Yep.
And then you've got on the consumer side, people are trying to pare down their debt levels. They're trying to pare down their credit card monthly payments.
Is that why this happened so quickly?
I think that's what did it. I think a big part of it was the fact that people aren't putting a lot of big ticket items on their credit cards right now.
Not anymore.
The economy is slowing down. People are nervous about spending. So the consumer end is coming down. The other end keeps rising quickly. So that's what's brought us to this point.
All right. So again, these are numbers. They're huge numbers. But again, they're just numbers. The bottom line is, what does this really mean for students?
Well, look, one of the big things that has to happen is there has to be some serious coverage of this issue. There was a group when this study came out. There's this group called studentloanjustice.org, which put out a survey that found that for every 15 stories the media does about credit cards, there's only one story about student debt.
When it should probably be the opposite almost.
Exactly. So once that starts moving, that's going to generate the kind of political pressure we need to get action. There have been movements, steps taken to protect consumers through credit cards. Now there really have to be steps taken by Congress to protect student loan borrowers. We've talked a lot about the idea of, we're always encouraging people max out on your federal loans.
Yep.
That's because those federal loans have protections that private student loans don't have. So what we really need to do is bring some equity to that to make sure that those private loans have the same kind of consumer protections that credit cards have. And that way, we'll hopefully start to alleviate some of this situation.
Peter, thank you so much. Great, important information. Very staggering numbers. Mind-blowing when you think about it. For more information on student loan debt and how to hopefully avoid this, just head over to foxprovidence.com.